Glad to welcome Marko Galbreath of T4 Tactics. We've been talking a little bit before we got started, but I think one of the coolest things right now, I'm getting ready to get out of law enforcement. You've been there, done that,
Praise
got the T-shirt. Yeah, got the T-shirt. But one of the things that I think about is I think the general public thinks we're coming. And before all the police reform, it was we're going to be looking for the criminals and they're probably not going to make it to you. And if they do, it's going to be an isolated event. That's not that case anymore. We're not hunting criminals anymore. We're responding to calls. We are firemen with guns at this point. And I think one of the things that are really cool is now you have a solution for the general public to deal with that type of stuff. So just talk about a little bit about your history, how you got from Florida to Virginia.
Okay. So I always wanted to be a cop as long as I can remember. Always watching Adam 12, Chips, and my goal. I grew up born and raised in Daytona Beach. Ended up working for the police department down there. But my goal was I wanted to be undercover narcotics, SWAT. I wanted to do the police motorcycle and then the majorcation. I got to do all of them. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. But
so what was your favorite?
Oh, wow.
Depending on what.
In the cooler months, I enjoyed getting paid to ride that motorcycle, ride a Harley Davidson around, because we have all the special events, Bike Week, Spring Break, the races. That's fun, but you can't beat undercover narcotics. You get to use your imagination. You get to think outside the box, and it's just just complete adrenaline dump. So that was probably my most favorite. And the monkey suit's not comfortable.
No.
The gun belt, the bulletproof vest, and
I think what people don't realize about narcotics is instead of sitting there and waiting for something to happen, you're actually going out and
finding it,
and
using your investigative skills, imagination, creativity. But one of the bad parts is you see the worst of the worst. I mean, people below rock bottom. And that's, you look at people and say, that's somebody's daughter or that's somebody's son. And so that can get tough.
Right.
Worked a lot of homicides and I look back and I think some of the people I saw that were just strung out on drugs was more hurtful than working a homicide.
So what do you think about the people that you saw made it the most difficult? It's just like being able to relate and go, how can a human being go from this to that, or how?
I think they start partying and they get hooked on something and they have that addictive mindset. They don't have a support. A lot of it, you look back and a lot of it comes from parenting. We go to the hospital where there's been an OD and the parents show up and you say, well, there's the problem right there.
Makes sense now.
They were never taught.
Right.
From what I saw, a lot of it goes back to parenting, and just addictive personalities.
So how many years were you in Florida at Daytona?
22 years with the police department.
And
so we had a really good pension, 20 and out, and so I did.
It's a lot like Roanoke.
Yeah.
City, so
yeah. It was a private pension, and 20 and out. Awesome. It was really set up. So I did 2 extra years, and it gets to the point where you're making the same amount of money working as if you were collecting that pension.
Yeah, and you're sitting there going, it's not.
And I'm riding a motorcycle. My last 6 years, I was in charge of the sergeant of the motorcycle unit, and I thought, why am I on a motorcycle when I can get out of here? You can push it, Oh
yeah.
You've done some crazy stuff, and you push it, and you get injured, and then I don't want to be thinking, well, why didn't I get out when I could?
Right, while I was still healthy and could enjoy my time.
Yeah.
So you retire, and how do you end up in Virginia?
I always wanted the mountains and the seasons and stuff like that. So my wife's from Philadelphia. I'm not going up there. That's too far north. She didn't want to go up there either. So we just picked a halfway point.
Okay.
But I'm 4th generation Daytona. We looked at Smith Mountain Lake area. We looked at North Carolina and Virginia, but we really enjoyed going to the lake. And people say, well, why'd you move away from the ocean? Well, when you're there 42 years, it's like people up here saying, well, I'll never move away from the mountains. You do. You want a change of pace. I grew up surfing. I mean, my whole life surfing on the beach, spent a lot of time at the beach.
Right.
I want the mountains, and I want to see some snow and seasons. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get some this year.
Yeah.
We got a little bit.
And then we'll be complaining about it.
You'll be like, wait.
Right.
Changed my mind.
Yeah, it was teasing.
Send me back to Florida.
Yeah.
So if we have a bad winter, it's your fault.
That's right. It's going to be my fault for saying it today.
So you're going to teach a course on how to drive in snow?
No. I can do soft sand, but yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah.
So you do your 22 years. You start T4 Tactics when you get here?
Yep.
Okay.
Moved up here. I was delivering for Reed's Saw and Tool for a while. I tried that.
Okay.
Great place to work, great company, great guys and girls that work there, but it didn't challenge me.
Okay.
I need that adrenaline rush, and it wasn't my comfort zone.
Okay.
So I started teaching firearm safety classes, and then T4 Tactics. Then that evolved into active shooter and situational awareness, because that's my comfort zone. I kind of started thinking, why was I trained in all this stuff? Why do I have this experience and I'm delivering saw blades?
Right.
So that just wasn't my niche.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that, because I watched a short video that you did on situational awareness, and I think just to be forthcoming, I think with the police reform, you have all these unintended consequences.
Yeah.
And one of the unintended consequences are the general public is going to find themselves in a situation where they better have some kind of understanding or training to deal with a violent incident. And I think it's kind of, I don't want to say it's funny, but like when I watch people talk about like, oh my gosh, that police officer was really violent.
Yeah.
You rarely see all the things that led up to that event. What you see is that him getting a couple shots in to get the person in under control.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that there aren't officers that'll get a couple of extra shots in, but for the most part, what I've found in law enforcement is you have a very violent person, and the quicker you can get into custody, the safer it is for them and the safer it is for everybody around them. But what I really liked about your situational awareness course is don't be in a violent encounter.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
The best way to win a fight is not being one in the first place.
Right.
It's okay to walk away. It's okay to, if I can, and I teach in the concealed carry classes, if I'm getting robbed and I'm justified to use my gun, but I can get out that way, I'm going that way.
Right.
The last thing you want to do is shoot somebody.
Yes.
But we also have to have that mindset. Don't put me in a corner. Don't back me in a corner, because I'll go home and you won't. But the biggest thing I think is people, our environment is always transmitting to us. People are transmitting to us, but some people don't read that. They look right at it because we get a normalcy bias that, well, I've never been attacked, in Lynchburg before.
Right.
So it'll never happen. We don't have this in Lynchburg. We don't have this in Bedford or Amherst. So it'll never happen. And so we tend to get into that soft, fuzzy blanket that nothing's going to happen. We were talking off air, when that girl we had her throat slashed on that train in Charlotte. I got really busy.
Right.
And then it died down. Then Charlie Kirk got assassinated. Really busy. Now with the new elections and things could be changed with the Second Amendment. Really busy. Right. Why don't we stay busy? And we were talking about your bomb detection dogs and Secret Service and stuff like that prior to going on. And 24/7, the Secret Service and the Executive Protection Detail for the president will do all they can do to protect the president. Why don't we do that every single day?
And our family.
Yeah, every single day. Why don't we do everything we can do to protect? We don't have the resources of a bomb dog and bulletproof vehicles, and we don't have that, but we need to make sure we're doing everything we can possibly do every single day to protect ourselves.
I think it's interesting because we were talking, you said being on a SWAT team, special response team and things like that. And I think everybody thinks tactics and they think, okay, it's all the cool guns, all the cool gear and everything else. But I think all the tactical operators that I've seen, their brain works better than any of that.
Yes.
Any of that.
The biggest, most powerful self-defense tool we have on us is the gray matter in between our two ears.
Right.
It's if we're taught, and everybody can learn it. I hear people say, well, I wasn't military, I wasn't police. It can be taught very easily.
It is.
I get pastors. We do church safety training for active shooter, and I get pastors a lot of times. I hear it all the time. They'll call and say, we don't have any big guys with guns, so we can't start a church safety team. That could be no further from the truth. It's eyes and ears. It's communication, effective communication, threat assessment, risk management. And if we focus on that, we're stronger as a team than we are as individuals.
So I want to go into that a little bit more, but before we start that, I think one of the things that I think people, when they think about like assessing behavior and things like that, it seems like, well, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
And I think, you know how we told who the bad guys were when we were in Afghanistan? We picked up our hand and waved to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we could probably pick out pretty quickly who is a problem and who is not a problem.
Right. And assessing people is not based on, it's profiling, but it's not based on skin color, what they're wearing, where they come from. God gave us the hairs on the back of the neck, the hairs on our arms, and a gut feeling. And when those act up, we got to listen to it. We have everybody here has the ability to look at somebody and say, that's not right. That person's off.
Right.
Or they're not waving back.
I mean, we've sat at stoplights and seen that person talking to themselves, all these different things. And you're like, wait a minute.
Exactly. Whenever there's a serial killer that's John Wayne Gacy or Jeffrey Dahmer, you always hear the neighbors come out after he's been caught. I knew something was up with him. I always had that feeling. Right. We get that feeling. But people don't go with it because we don't want to be called, you know, we're homophobic or we're judging this people or that people, you know, so we tend not to say anything.
Because we're like, it's the sheep mentality.
Yeah.
Like, well, nobody's getting attacked.
That's right.
If I have to come up with a plan, that means there's a problem, and I want to pretend like it's not a problem.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit on the church safety plans, because I feel like I think one of the things I thought was really cool about one of the things that you were talking about on your videos is that this is a place where we welcome people. It's not like a business we can go, hey, we don't want you or we don't want this.
Right.
Talk about how you prepare these churches for this.
We train the whole church for 3 hours, and I don't, in any of my trainings, I don't charge per head other than the gun classes, but active shooter I want the church to pack that congregation, pack that sanctuary with people. The more people we get trained, the better we are. But we talk specifically to the safety team, and we let them know, you're not SEAL Team 6. This isn't Afghanistan. Right. You're welcoming. The mission of the church is to bring people to Christ, or whatever denomination that is.
Right.
But that's the mission. So we don't want to be intimidating. We don't want to scare people. We want to be welcoming. But we also want a potential bad guy or girl to look at that person and say, you know, they're the nicest usher here, but I wouldn't want to cross them. Right. That command presence.
Right.
That person is very, very nice, but I wouldn't want to come in here and do something I shouldn't be doing. So it's a mission of the church. It's an oath to God that you're going to protect the church. And we have to do it very diplomatically.
So what I've learned, and I'm wondering if this is part of what y'all do, is a lot of active shooter events that turn out not to be, and a lot of things that are prevented, is just contact.
Yeah.
The person making contact in a place where the person is uncomfortable. The OODA loop. Yeah, I interrupted what their thought process was, and because I interrupted it, they're like, well, wait a minute, I don't know. Because I think people think, for me, most people don't have a propensity for violence. Right. So they're revving themselves up to go do it. You look at all these active shooters that are going, they've revved themselves up either with some type of narcotic. Right. Or just in their brain of like, this is the problem, and they move so fast. And if you slow them down and have a conversation with them, it might get them to turn around.
Yeah, and just be diplomatic and talk to them. We tell churches that they need to have a place set aside with snacks and coffee, that if they get somebody in there that's ruffling feathers, let's have a place to get them aside while we're waiting for law enforcement to show up, or we're figuring out how we're going to handle this person. Don't put them in with the flock in the congregation, because that's where they want to go.
And I think that's an awesome thing that I think a lot of people don't think through that.
Yeah.
They don't think through, they think like this person's a problem.
Right.
But what you're doing is you're giving them a plan and an alternate plan. So like, we're not going to let you into this area. Right. But we have an area just for you.
Yeah. And we're going to bring you over here and give you free donuts, bagels, and coffee or whatever. We're going to give you a pamphlet about the church. And if it turns out that, you know what, this person is just a little off, but they're not a threat, the only thing you've done is given them free coffee, a donut, and a pamphlet about the church. They feel welcome, let them go into church. But if not, we've got them isolated and law enforcement's on the way, or more church security safety team people are on the way.
I think I have got to say, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, like I've never ever thought about like having a place to put them to make them feel welcome. Yeah. Because it kind of like it de-escalates it.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it gives you a chance to figure out, are they a threat or are they just different?
I think that's one of the cool things with your experience level and a lot of the people that have the experience that you do. I think about the old story about they had this really expensive ship and they'd spent tens of thousands of dollars to repair it. And they found this old dude that had repaired shit for years. He went down there with a ball peen hammer, hit it, and the rudder started kicking in again. And he charged them, the propeller started kicking in again.
Yeah.
And he charged them like $15,000, $20,000. And they're like, what's your hourly rate? And he goes, all my experience to fix it as quickly as I did. And I think that's what people are paying for when they get you, is they get somebody that has the experience. And you can teach people to be like all these, you know, like you said, SEAL Team 6, like you can train somebody at that level, but it isn't applicable to what they're doing. But with what you're doing, you're actually giving these people an opportunity of like, hey, here's inside the soft environment that you have, we can give them a soft place, but a safe place for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool.
It's a lot about prevention, awareness. I'm really, really careful not to teach fear or paranoia. We're teaching awareness, and we're giving people the skill, education, confidence, and knowledge to look at something, recognize, got to shut that down, or I need to get away from that. Yeah,
and I think that's what I think in a lot of the things is that you have the extreme, like you talked about, where you have a new governor coming in and everybody's like, oh my gosh, I need to get my concealed weapons permit and everything else. And that's all fine and good. But if they don't have any training or anything else, what we've done is I won't mention the church, but there's a church I went to, and I was like, if anybody ever pulls a gun, you know what my plan was? To get on the ground and stay there till they finish shooting at each other.
Some places it's going to look like the OK Corral.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer the fastest way to stop an active shooter is a well-trained guy or girl with a firearm. That's just the quickest way to shut them down. Right. But when we have too many, we could be looking at friendly fire, ricochet, good guys shooting good guys because they don't know. Police coming on scene. It's too many guns is not the answer. It's just not.
And so when you come up with plans like that, what is in your brain of like, hey, is it like a case by case? Like, okay, I go assess the particular locality that I have, and this is what I recommend.
Yeah, I'll look at what's 2 blocks behind that building, 3 blocks. Are there any concerning areas that we need to talk about? And then I do a facility review, and that gives me the opportunity to create a specific plan for that building. You know, the demographics, who comes there, if it's a business, what type of work do they do, what kind of employees, vendors, customers do they bring in? So it's all customized to that facility. And it also brings in people. I just went to a church last night and did a facility review. We're going to do church training Saturday. But when I'm talking to the congregation and I say, you know how when you go down the stairs and you turn left and the children's church is right there, it clicks with people. Okay, he's seen this, and I know where he's talking about, and that brings them in. We want to bring people in. A lot of people are scared to death about active shooter training. You know, I don't want to hear this. So we got to soften it up. I don't want to sugarcoat it, but I don't exaggerate it.
So I think that for me, what I hear
voices?
Voices. I do hear voices.
I do too, all the time.
But like from my standpoint, what I hear in what you're saying is being aware of where you're at, your surroundings, and having a plan.
Right.
And so people can do that for their home, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So so when you talk about different areas around, what is something that would trigger? So I did an assessment for the locality I work for, and they had something that was a problem inside of that facility.
Yeah.
Something that is a magnet to people that would possibly be a violent encounter.
Yeah.
So what are things that you look at that you're like, hey, this is a potential issue for you, or this is not going to be an issue?
So I want the building to be secure to where people look at it and say, okay, they've got security. But we don't want any building looking like a prison,
right?
You know, especially a church. And so we want the building to keep the bad guy out if we need to. We want it to work for us in the event of an attack and not against us.
Right.
So we need areas of refuge. People don't think about that.
Right.
We need locking doors on heavy doors, no glass. And again, it can be designed so it's soft and welcoming. But we're looking at things like that. One of the biggest problems I see on businesses is they have the double doors where you open them. And this last shooting, I think it was in Memphis, I'm not sure, but they put a 2x4 through that door. Now that cut down an exit. You're not coming out of there. So it's just little things that we can do to the building to to get it to work for us and not against us.
So when you say, though, when you assess 3 or 4 blocks back, what are you looking for 3 or 4 blocks back that's like, okay, this is something that could cause you a problem?
That's a good question. If it's, let's say it's a housing project and that has a high crime rate, shootings, drugs, then we'll go look at that building. Is there a path that cuts through, because people are cutting through coming to our property to go to the convenience store next door?
Right.
Can something possibly spill over from there into our property? Is there a gas station, 2 doors down that brings in a lot of drug use?
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at is
and I think what's really cool about that is by doing it that way, you also give them the ability, when you train them, of like, hey, your first response when you have somebody going past,
right,
that might not be a shooter. They might be going to the convenience store.
Yeah.
And so like you're collecting all the information so they can come up with a complete plan.
Could be something innocent, but what we're doing is teaching them, if somebody comes from that complex that has high crime, you need to at least be watching them.
Right.
And like you said, it could be completely innocent, or it could be somebody looking for criminal opportunity.
And I don't know. I think a lot of times people want to, and this is my biggest complaint about law enforcement. I do active shooter training all the time. We are willing to invest all this time and effort to respond.
Yeah.
No money on prevention, or at least identifying problems.
And when you hear of an active shooter attack in the news, they bring in these FBI agents. And they critique what happened, but very seldom do you hear the local news or the national news saying, let's look at how this could have been prevented in the first place. Most active shooter attacks and violent attacks are preventable. I've gone to 17 different locations of some of the worst attacks we've had, and I've interviewed 91 people. And at one time in those interviews, I'll take them to breakfast, lunch, dinner, coffee. That's where I get my information. But I'm sitting here thinking, that could have been prevented by what you just told me. They ignored the warning signs. And then another thing they all say is, I never thought it would happen here. It happens at this church. It happens there. It happens at this business. Never thought it would happen at our location. Every single one of those people, 91 people, they said that in common, right across the board.
So without going into a lot of detail, talk about what it's like to talk to somebody that survives a violent encounter, and you're sitting there going, like, your guts like tore up because you're like, man, like one extra step would have prevented all this.
A lot of it is healing. A lot of the people, when I call them, and they're victims, witnesses, survivors, law enforcement, that's who I'm talking to. And of course, the law enforcement can just rattle it out. They're not as emotional, but the victims and survivors and witnesses get very emotional, but it's a part of healing, being able to talk about it.
Yeah. I don't know. We had a wonderful lady here whose husband was killed in front of her. And she talked about that, and like her ability to just talk about him and who he was and everything else. It did seem like it gave her an outlet to say, like, everybody has thought of my husband as this is who he was to me. Right. It's a side note, but like, I think that's the thing that's most gut wrenching for me, and it has to be for you, or what you do is talking to them and going, that's preventable.
And they're very, very descriptive, when they say, I saw this and I saw that. And sometimes I get angry. Being law enforcement, I get angry. Why couldn't I have been there? Like Sutherland Springs Baptist Church, 26 people killed. And I have a specific video on that I put together with pictures of the church right after it happened, the memorial wall. And sometimes when I watch that, my emotions are sad. I'll get teared up because 26 people, there were infants, there were people of all ages that he just leveled that rifle off to. So in that case, if you were an adult, you just got shot. If you were an infant, elementary school, middle school, you got shot numerous times and you had some very vulgar words said to you. That's just demonic. He's there because he's mad at the mother-in-law. What does a baby, an infant, and a little 3-year-old have to do with the mother-in-law? And just the rage that he showed to those kids. And I'm thinking, so what I do is, the reason I go out and talk to these people is, run, hide, fight's outdated. I don't like that. I think it's an element to active shooter. But what we have to do is learn what were these locations, what were their mistakes and successes? Where did they fail to let this happen? And then during the event, where did they do to make it worse or to make it better. So that's what my training is focused on.
Well, and I think
is the mistakes.
I think from my standpoint in doing the active shooter training, I think that we are preparing to react.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Run,
is
hide,
like
fight. The last thing we're telling them we're going to do is fight.
Right. And so it just, for me, that has always been like one of my most difficult points.
Mm-hmm.
Alert training.
Mm-hmm.
They have gotten millions upon millions of dollars, well invested dollars from the government to react to an active shooter, and they've saved countless lives.
Yeah.
How many lives if they invested like just a quarter of that into things like you do to prevent them?
Prevention. It's most of them are most active shooter attacks, even most personal violent attacks are preventable. Mm-hmm. You know, from being in law enforcement, you do a traffic stop, you're walking out of the car, you're watching shoulder movements, you're looking at everything. You're preventing it right there.
Right.
Civilians can do that. And we can do it in our church. We can do it in our schools. We can prevent this by proper training and awareness. Not paranoia, proper training and awareness.
So situational awareness. Mm-hmm. And this is a pet peeve of mine. So just take this journey with me.
Yeah.
One of my biggest problems right now with law enforcement is we are negotiating with people on the side of the road. And these officers, from doing behavior analysis and the things that you do is being aware of your situation. Just give your point of view. My point of view, I'll tell you mine so we don't walk over each other. But my point of view is when I'm sitting there having a conversation on the side of the road and I'm asking you to do something, you are sitting there assessing me and you're saying he is not going to do what he needs to do to extract me from this car. So I am coming up with a plan to either get away or to end his life so I can get away. I'm looking for tools and opportunity to take advantage of this. That's what I see when I see these officers. You have two officers in Virginia Beach that are killed on a traffic stop. I don't know all the details of that, but what I do know is it's unless you have somebody that like, and that was an extended stop, I believe. Yeah. And so, but like you have like in New Mexico, the trooper that gets out, he has a conversation, the guy gets out, he shoots him as he's going back to his car. That's pretty quick. Yeah. And that's an ambush. Right. But how many of these things really aren't ambushes? It's just interaction. Yeah. I don't know. Like what's your when you assess stuff like that, are we handcuffing our officers by sitting there going, you need to negotiate with these people?
I think there's de-escalation and there's mutual respect, but in law enforcement, you and I were taught ask them, tell them, make them. Yes. And now it's ask them again, ask them, plead with them again. There's very, very, very seldom make them. But we were told, you tell them and that's it. And I think, like you said, bad guys are assessing us just like we're assessing them. They're looking at the physical fitness of the officer. They're looking at the holster and the duty belt and is that worn? Is it brand new? They look at all that stuff. And I think also they look at the sharpness of the officer. Did they sleep in that uniform? Are they groomed well? I think that has a lot to do with it. The grooming, law enforcement grooming has gone downhill. Oh. When I was in narcotics and in the major case unit, we grew beards. My pet peeve is a beard in uniform. I'm old school. I just think when you're in uniform, it's high and tight, dialed in, sharp. People look at you and wow. But I mean, times have changed. I'm old, but I think there's a time for narcotics, SIU, something like that, OSI, beard, but.
So you agree that they're assessing, and we're getting a lot of officers hurt and killed because we aren't saying, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to tell you, right, and then I'm going to make you.
That's right. The command presence isn't there, and sometimes that's from grooming. I've interviewed bad guys that have done horrible things to police officers, and they've said, I sized them up. They're not physically fit. They're not. They're talking to me and they've got their gun side towards me. And these guys go to prison and they're told, watch this when you get stopped. Watch this, watch that. What, are they holding something in their strong hand, or what's their situational awareness studying us just like we're teaching civilians to study them.
Yeah, I don't. So we'll transition away from that because
we could go on forever.
We could. Yeah. And I think you have unintended consequences for things people do. I always thought it was interesting when we talk about police reform, and then you have your local population pissing and moaning because they have to come for jury duty.
Right.
Well, that's part of it. It used to be nobody would want to take a chance with the jury because if I get convicted, the jury finds me guilty.
Yeah.
And then they sentence me.
That's right.
And so you had dudes that they were going in there rolling the dice and getting life sentences, and they're like, I don't want to do that. But now you can do a jury sentence, so you only have to convince one out of that group that you didn't do it.
Right.
Why not take the chance? Because the judge is ultimately going to sentence you, and you sentencing guidelines, and that's what frustrates me. It frustrates me when we talk about politicians and everything else. And like for me, like the ICE stuff. It's not their fault.
No.
That is their task. Their task and mission is to remove people who are not here legally.
They're following what their boss says.
If you don't like it, go to your politicians, vote somebody in that has a different view.
Right.
Obviously, based on what we had in the last presidential election, people said, build a wall, keep us safe.
Enough.
Enough's enough.
But but for 4 years, we let certain people in, and they were allowed to flourish and run around and get all kinds of benefits. Now we're figuring out these are bad people. We need to get them out, and that people don't like it.
I saw something the other day when I was scrolling through, and it had an ICE guy with his gun at low ready, and they were just like vilifying, and they were like, I cannot believe he's pointing a gun at reporters and everything else. And it's like, no, that's a protective position.
Yeah.
Because people have been throwing stuff at his car.
Right.
And in Chicago, they actually shot at him.
Right.
So, don't be surprised if they turn the other side and like you project this and then they respond.
Right. And I think a lot of people think it's a game. I think a lot of cops think it's a game. It's that it gets to a point where you can call timeout or something like that. But you see these people that are trying to fire up the police and rile up the police, and then it gets physical, and they're calling the cops all different names and horrible names and spitting at them and kicking them. Well, when the cop physically fights back, as they're justified to do, then it's call your supervisor. What? No, you can't turn it up. And then when the cop starts doing what he's supposed to do, you want his badge number?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
Wow. It's not a game.
It's a consequence.
Yeah,
You made a poor life decision. I think one of the things that I wish was said more is I feel like every police officer shooting that I've seen on video, every single person that was shot or somebody went hands on or anything else, there was one thing all of them had in common. They had gone past the ask and they had gone past the told.
Right.
And so every single one of them, they weren't doing what they were asked to do. The side of the road is not a time for you to make a decision on to be tried or anything else.
Right.
Like that when they tell you to do it, they have to do it.
Right.
And so I just think that I wish that people would have more honest conversations with their population and say, there's a very violent element out there. And if we don't interdict them at a place of our choosing, they're coming to your home.
Right.
And when they do, we're not going to be there to help you.
Right.
We will get there probably after the violent event has occurred.
Right.
Probably involving your wife, your children, and everything else. And like, if you think it's violent when you have a trained on trained, even if it's a trained that's not physically fit, that's going to look a whole lot better than a victim who has no training.
Right.
I feel like they want to think that these people, they're just going to go back to the way their life. No, they are predators. They are out there looking for people.
They are.
It's no different than you get up every day and you're like, hey, I'm going to do this to help people. There are people in this world that go out there and go, I'm going to find the weakest person I can and I'm going to get what I need or what I want. Even if I have to take it from
and I've studied it, and no sign on the front door that says no weapons or firearms allowed is going to stop me, because I've predatory violence. I've planned it, and when I go up to this person, that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about on the you were talking on your side of the classes that you teach as far as behavior. So when you teach the behavior, we were talking about how when people come in, you have to like convince them, like, I guess the people that show up are convinced like, hey, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So talk about some of those things. What can we put out there to tell the general public, like, it's not an ebb and flow.
Right.
You need to maintain at least a minimal operational efficiency of this.
I get a lot of people that take that observational based behavior analysis class, and that's teaching the environment, it's teaching to read people. It's I don't like saying CIA based or FBI behavior analysis based, but it is. It's what they teach the CIA and FBI to look and read more into it, environment and everything like that. You did it in Afghanistan. You know, you read things, and so I think it's. A lot of people just get in that mindset. It's not going to happen to me. I'll never have anything bad happen to me. But it's just reading. All it is just like we said earlier, your environment is transmitting. We have to learn to receive that.
So let's talk about a couple of the things, couple of the situations that the general public finds themselves in, and what would you recommend for them to assess? Let's go back to the example of no firearms allowed into a convenience store.
Right.
Before you talk about from the moment that you pull into a convenience store to the moment you pull out, what is going through your head to be efficient?
So if I travel a lot for active shooter training all over the country, I'll drive when I can, so I don't have the drama of airlines.
I hope I make it home.
I know. I hope my luggage makes it to me. So I travel a lot in places I don't know. When I pull up there, if I see that the front of the store is trashed, the broken window theory. Right. If I see that the trash can's overflowing, there's trash out by the gas pumps, the weeds are overgrown, that's telling me that's not a good area.
Right.
When I see that it's clean and well kept, that's a good area. That's a place to stop. So we have to look at stuff like that. Is anybody hanging around by the front door? Are there people hanging around by the dumpster? Because that's going to be a potential for problems for me. So we'll go somewhere else. But it's just looking at that, reading the environment. And then when you get out, I tell people have a 5-yard and a 25-yard bubble around you. So before you get out that convenience store, look 5 yards around you, what's immediately close to me, and then 25 yards out, what's far away. Then when you get out of your car, keep that 5 and 25-yard bubble. I'm looking at stuff that's close to me. I'm looking at stuff that's far away. And if I see something that doesn't look right to me, because I have that 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th sense. Right. You know, if I see something that ruffles the hairs on the back of my neck, then I leave. Right. That's not right. The human brain is going to try to analyze that. Okay, that's somebody waiting for the store clerk to get off work, so it's okay. I'll go in. Well, it may not be. Right. But we tend to think that nothing bad will happen to me. Normalcy bias, and I'm going to run in this store and run back out.
And that's
we got to read things.
That's when it gets bad.
Yeah. But
so one of the things that I think about is interdiction work. And one of the things that I think people do.
A lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah. But I think one of the things that people do is I think people think that we're out there going, I really want to stop that because it has this, this, and this. No, right. What I'm looking at is there's a family going to this. There's this person doing, and it's different. What you're observing going past you is depending on what time of day it is. Right. If you're at 4 or 5 o'clock, you're seeing people going home from work. Right. You know, and so I'm like, work. Right. Work. And then I have the dude that slides almost trying to get underneath the side of the window. I'm like, that's a problem.
The one we used to work I-95 interdiction, and the speed limit was 70 miles an hour. The one that 3 o'clock in the morning is doing 70, both hands on the steering wheel, looking straight ahead like that. They got drugs. They're running from Miami and back. That's the one. Right. And that's just reading it. You know?
And they could have been green.
Absolutely.
And it would have made a bit of difference.
Yeah. Judging on skin color will throw you off base or get you jammed up. But it's things like that.
It has nothing to do with the car.
Right at the speed limit.
Nothing to do with the car. Nothing. No. It's all behavior based.
Yep. And it's that gut feeling. There's a lot of great cops out there that work off gut feeling. And it's right. We have that gift. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to, and this is for me, it's one of the things, because I think we have RAD, we have rape aggression, and that all that training, but that isn't prevention. Right. So college girl, she is going from, let's say she decides to go to a basketball game. What could you tell a young lady that's going to a basketball game, 7 o'clock start, it's going to be dark when she gets out, she has to get to her car. What's the best plan that she could come up with to not be a victim of crime?
That's a good question. Google is a wealth of information. So she can look at that stadium. If she's going to go to that stadium or whatever venue, look at that stadium and see what kind of crimes have been reported there. You can go on UCR.gov, FBI.gov. You look at uniform crime reports. You can see what kind of crimes go on in that town or city. But you can ask around. You can, Google Earth it, look at the satellite map, what's behind it, what kind of area is it in. But think about where she parks. If I'm going to pull up to the stadium, I want the door, the entrance to the stadium to be on my driver's side. So that when I get out and come back, I'm not walking around to the blind side of a car. Okay. If I face this way, when I come back to get to the driver's door, I've got to walk around to a blind side that I can't see. She can park in a well-lit area. Walk with a purpose. If I walk like this through the parking lot on my phone, I'm telling the bad guy so many things. Like you said, they study us. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling the bad guy, I probably won't fight. I probably don't have any defensive tools on me. I won't see you coming up at me. I won't be able to identify you, and I'm clueless. But if that young lady puts the phone down in her hand, shoulders up, walks with a purpose, head on a swivel, walking at a decent pace, like she's got a purpose, that's not somebody I'm going to attack because she's thought about her personal safety. I could see that by looking at her. And so a lot of it has to do with, you might be the weakest person in the world, but we can put out the perception that we're the strongest person in the world. Don't mess with me. Right. And so a lot of it's that, but parking in a well-lit area, calling friends and family, hey, I'm getting here at this time and I should be leaving at this time.
Well, that's great information.
They've got
because I think kids they just don't think. And I
especially
think,
young ones. Mm-hmm. You were a young cop at one time. I was a young cop at one time, and I was invincible.
Oh yeah,
and I did things on that police motorcycle, and I look back, it was like unbelievable, unbelievable, and things. You know, it's. I think young ones, the young generation. I was the same way.
It won't happen to me.
It won't happen to me, and I'm invincible.
I can take this chance.
And then you get older. And
I remember, and I think everybody goes through it. You're invincible until you latch onto somebody.
That's right.
And you looked at him and you're like, this dude's like 20, 30 pounds less weight than I am. Yeah. And those wiry dudes, man, it's those are dudes that could fight forever. And like you're sitting there and you're like, I cannot believe this dude's bending all these different directions, and I cannot get that second hand.
And you're using all these. Yeah, my first brand new rookie, my first fight, I went to a Subway. The guy was trashing the place, and I get there, and he chills out. And I go to ask for his license, and he hands it to me. When I went to reach for it, he went and held it out here, and I thought, and I could see the look in his eyes. I was like, it's on. Yeah, and it was. And it was. And it was just me and him. And good Lord. You think a minute, you look at your watch, a minute's not a long time. A minute,
it's a long time.
Fighting like that.
When you're tasting blood.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not bleeding, but I taste blood.
And I was fit. Probably 20 years old. I started when I was 19, 20 years old. And after that, when the backup got there and we got him secured, I'm, you're like gasping for air.
It's just amazing. It is. I don't think I do. And that's why I respect. We had a conversation. I had a conversation with a dude that was a wrestler.
Yeah.
And I was like, by far, that is the worst sport to be in.
Yes.
And he was like, it really wasn't that bad. And I was like, that's because you wrestled. Because I played football, and they're like, hey, wrestle at this. We don't have it. Mm-hmm. And I was just like you said, like I was like when I went down to get in that whatever position it was where you're like, you're locked in, and they, I don't know if it's a mount or what it is, but all I could think was like, I hope you don't blow the whistle anytime soon because like I need to catch my breath. Yeah. I can't carry on with this.
And that's what people don't realize. And that's why they need to hear what we're talking about is the reality is you're going to get really winded after about 10 seconds of a fight. It's not like on TV where
you hit them and they fall down.
That's right. Or you get hit 5 or 6 times with a bare fist and there's no blood on the actor and they're just coming back. That's not a fight. You look at this MMA stuff. They get hit one time in the face and there's blood. There's swelling.
Right.
And so I think it's just letting people know this is the reality. Is it a 2-minute fight is about 2 hours.
Yeah,
That's
it's a long
time.
It's an eternity. And even when you pop that emergency button, you can hear them coming, but you're like, they're not getting.
What are they doing? Are they sitting still with the siren? Yeah, I was in an incident once, and I'm hearing them jump the median. It was a shooting, and I was gun to gun with this guy, and I can hear them jump the median, and the sirens. I'm like, are they just sitting there? What are they doing? But we talk about that
Everything
too.
Slows down.
The time continuum, and we talk about in the situational awareness class and active shooter training. We talk about how completely upside down you're going to get at 175, 185 beats per minute. People that have not been there, you can't describe it on what it's like.
To me, the only thing I can describe it is and I thought about this, and I think anybody that's been in law enforcement, especially the high speed stuff like you did, is it's like an old movie reel.
Yeah.
It's like, it's choppy. Like, it's like, I
Yeah.
got a clear picture.
Yeah.
It's not clear.
That's
and
right.
then it's clear again. And then like when you go through, like when I worked narcotics, I felt like they had turned that thing up to about 100, and I had all those scenes flashing through my head, and I was like, I can't slow this down.
And you look back, and you're like, did I do that? Did that happen? It's like when Alec Baldwin shot and killed that woman. I honestly don't think he remembers pulling the trigger.
I don't think
Obviously he did, but people say, well, he's lying. He pulled the trigger. He did pull the trigger, I think, but I don't think he remembers it. It's, it's in that moment. It's just, yeah. So,
I mean, even you think, I feel like they train us well on all those different things. And I think even with training, you sit there and you're like, I don't, I remember after, I don't really know how we got from here to here. It had to have been something bad.
Right.
But like, I just remember it being like, we're finishing up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we went from, we'll tell you stories, but like, I know some of the fights that I was in, I was just like, I was rolling around, and then the next minute I'd gotten them into a better position and I'd won.
Right.
But I had no idea how I got there.
Yeah.
I just knew that they had done something really stupid because like I'm picking up gear that I remember a guy one time that I had him, and then he was gone. And I looked down and my handcuffs were there, and I was like, I have no idea. It's like a Houdini.
Yeah. And they're fighting in jeans and a t-shirt or shorts and a t-shirt. We're fighting in all that gear, and that's restricting.
Yeah.
I wore motorcycle boots, on the bike, and you can't run in those things.
No.
You can't. They restrict you, so you gotta train for that.
Yeah.
But you look at some of the incidents, fights we've been in, and you look at the radio call log from when you called for help to where you called, they're in custody, and you think 15 seconds. There's no way. That was like a 20-minute fight.
No, that guy. So that one I was telling you about that Houdini'd me. The only thing that made me feel good, and it came out in circuit court, because I fought that dude. My hands were like tore up.
Yeah.
And all I could remember was like, I was like, I can't believe you got away.
Right.
I got my feeling of satisfaction. He went to circuit court, and his girlfriend testified. She's like, it looked like he was in a car wreck. And I was like, well, I guess I did something. I guess I did something right. Even if I didn't get him into custody, like, I guess I did at least, like, my hand.
Right.
My hand paid the price. Like, I always laugh with my kids. Like, I only have like one good knuckle left.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, all the rest of them are gone.
Right, right.
And I don't think people understand like how, and I think from my standpoint, like one of the things that I think is missing in law enforcement is the legacy these dudes gave us, like the ones before us.
Right.
Like they fought a whole lot more than we did.
Oh yeah.
And
with a baton.
Yes.
No taser, no stun gun, no pepper spray. It was either fist, baton. Yeah.
But they established order.
Right.
And I think that's what scares me about where we're at right now is most of the dudes that knew how to restore order are gone, or they're to the point in their career that they're like, I'm not taking that chance.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Yeah,
I think that's scary, especially when you look at like we were talking about before, like these people that have come over into this country, who I think the last estimate I heard, there's like 1,300 well-trained Al-Qaeda, ISIS fighters. And I think about how things get jammed up right now with like one or two, like one active shooter will shut down a campus or just the threat of something.
Oh, yeah.
But now you've got somebody that's highly trained. And what are we going to do in law enforcement? We're going to go out there. We're going to be like, okay, it's a barricade. No, he's preparing for the end battle.
We better be better than they are.
And we're not.
As civilians and as law enforcement, we have to be better than they are. And they are very well trained. They're well equipped. Just like the Halloween, the FBI foiled major attacks that were going to be on large venues this past Halloween. It was in the news for one day, and that went away. It went away fast because it was ISIS, and it went away fast. The media squashed it. Media squash. That's pretty cool.
Squash.
Yeah.
We can make a
little advertisement. Yeah.
Squash.
Yeah, squash. The media squashed it. But they did. They just got rid of it. And we need to know that. It should have been in the media a little bit more, but we need to know that because we've got a lot of large venue events coming up. Thanksgiving, fall festivals, Christmas. And the general public doesn't need to be scared about stuff like that, but they need to know, aware, this was being planned. And like you said, 13 13,000, well-trained Al-Qaeda in this country, ISIS is going to pick up where they left off Halloween Day. They're going to pick up. Yeah. And we have to be aware of that. Situational awareness, see something, say something, pass on information.
So go back. I think one of the things that I think is the coolest of what you do is to keep your home safe.
Yeah.
What does a plan to keep your home safe looks like?
The best thing to do, and I tell this to businesses and churches, the best thing to do is sit there and look outside of your house and say, if I was a bad guy, how would I gain entry?
Okay.
Or same way with a church or a business. If I was going to be an active shooter for this church or this business, how would I get in? How would I execute the plan? And that's where businesses, churches, homes will say, you know what? We always leave that back door propped open for the smokers. We got to shut that door. That's a vulnerable point. So I would look at the house. I would look at the interior, exterior, and think of a bad guy. Something as simple as when we do these home security assessments, you go up the stairs, there's a landing, then you go up a second set of stairs. If you were to put a vase, a potted plant there, and you're being chased upstairs, you just grab that and throw it behind you. You've put a barrier in between them now. Mm-hmm. It's going to slow them down.
Right.
And then think about, where is my security area? If I'm going to have to defend inside my house, where's the best place to do it?
Position of dominance.
Position of dominance. Yep. I don't, when we first moved up here, we got an alarm system. It went off quite a bit, just a couple false alarms. And I would tell my wife, don't turn on lights, because we're at a home court advantage. I know my house like the back of my hand. And when I turn on lights, I'm letting them see, oh, there's a hallway right there, or there he is. Mm-hmm. So it's just having a plan. But I believe that you have to have a firearm in the house. Mm-hmm. Some people don't believe that. That's okay. But I believe you have to have that readily accessible. You got to think about, if the bad guy's coming down to the master bedroom, raging down the hallway with a knife or a gun, if I shoot him and it goes to the drywall into my kid's room, I got problems. Mm-hmm. So all that needs to be thought about and planned.
When you select what firearm you're going to use.
Exactly.
Buckshot is not the best option.
No. I'm not a fan of a shotgun or a long gun for interior, because a lot of times I need to be on the phone with 911. Mm-hmm. I like a handgun for interior. That's just me. Other people are different, and that's fine, whatever works for you. But I want to be able to turn on lights. And if I have to physically fight that person, I don't want both my hands held up with a long gun or a shotgun. For me, I feel more. What are you like? You handgun for interior? What would you? It depends on who I'm fighting and what they have.
So for me, I don't want to tell a story. I don't want to tell a story on my wife, but like I always get on her, and she was like, "Why do we have two of them in here?" And I was like, "One's for you." And she goes, "Well, if they make it to me, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like they've already taken the big one out." And I was like, "No, that's the wrong idea."
Right.
Like so. For me, I prefer a pistol, because I can maneuver around and everything
I feel
else.
More comfortable.
And I don't have any long hallways. Now, if I'm going into a school, I'm definitely, and it's just different. And I think that's one of the things that I talk to people about all the time is, from a tactical standpoint, I always think it's funny when they're like, I remember I had a guy one time that came up to me and he was like, "Yeah, the SAS does it this way." And I was like, "Yeah, but they also have all the information on that building. They've been out there collecting information about that building while this barricade has continued.
Right.
They didn't just happenstance upon this and direct a threat.
Right.
They knew where the threat was, because they've already installed all their equipment and they know something about it. Like, so don't bullshit a bullshitter. Mm-hmm. The fact is, like, they have more information. I always think about, like, we talk about the Israeli pine and stuff like that. Well, that works really good until you're inside of a trailer.
Right.
And like, you have those paper thin walls. Like where's most of my protections? In my chest. If I'm walking down a hallway, I'm going to get hit in the arm.
Yeah.
And my arm's not going to stop that bullet. It's going to go right through, and I'm done. I'm down for the count.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, it's definitely a pistol. Round it out. So this is why I would like to round it out, is talk about some of the classes that you provide. And how people would get involved in what y'all do with T4 Tactics. So
the class I enjoy teaching the most by far is that observational-based behavior analysis class, situational awareness class, because I see people just click, especially the young ladies. A lot of ladies that are widowed will come take that class. I have a lot of guys take it, but I really enjoy that one. We just go so deep, and I've had people that leave and say, you know, I never thought about doing that, and I've been doing this. I'm going to stop doing that and start doing this. And then we do the concealed permit. We do the Utah non-resident multi-state.
Talk about that a little bit, because I think that's an interesting point, because I think a lot of people get their permit and they don't understand, like, there's a different dimension.
Yeah. So, you know, from being in law enforcement, when you do something, they're going to look at your training.
Right.
So we don't need you and I don't need concealed permits. We've got the LEOSA HR 218. So as a retired officer, I have to shoot every year and show proficiency, and then I can carry in all 50 states. So I don't need the Virginia permit or the Utah multi-state, but I have them, because if I go to court, if heaven forbid I have to use my firearm, I want to go to court and say, I don't need this, but I have this training, I've got this training, I've got this training.
More.
That's right.
More is better.
It's going to really, your attorney's going to love you when you've taken classes.
I didn't do the minimum.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't just do the concealed
person.
class, and I never shoot. I never practice, train. Yeah, you want to show that you're the most reasonable, responsible gun owner out there. So the multi-state class will bring you up in reciprocity. It fluctuates a lot because Virginia fluctuates sometimes, the reciprocity, but the multi-state will give you about 11 more states. But it shows that training. With this new governor, if she attacks the Virginia concealed permit, like the Democrats did years ago, and reciprocity took a big hit, you could, I don't know what they're going to do in Richmond, but you could be able to fall back on that Utah permit and say, I've still got my reciprocity.
Right.
Utah requires you to have your Virginia permit in order to get that permit.
So what is the difference in the training for the multi?
It's really not that much different. Utah requires 4 hours, fingerprints and photographs.
Okay.
They do a background check, but it's the first hour and a half is just firearm safety, reviewing firearm safety, suicide prevention, locking your gun up, and then the last hour, and it takes time for fingerprints and photographs, but the last hour, 20 minutes is Utah law.
So you teach those classes at your place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And we're just over on Mill Ridge Road, which is over near Home Depot.
Okay.
But yeah, Utah wants you to know Utah law, since they're issuing you a Utah non-permanent or non-resident. And then we do active shooter training for all types of facilities, churches, schools, hospitals, everything. We come in and do a facility assessment, risk management, risk assessment, set up with a threat assessment team. What puzzles me is Virginia requires every school to have a threat assessment team. Why doesn't every church and business in the United States have a threat assessment team? That's where you're going to identify your threat and more than likely shut it down. If there are so many, like when I went out and talked to those 91 people, I'm thinking, if you had just had a threat assessment team and somebody had heard them say that and gone and done something, that attack would have never happened.
And I think that's what's interesting about it is you're not just teaching like theory. You're teaching like this is what I have on a firsthand basis. You didn't lose it in the interpretation. Well, I heard this person say this.
Right.
You talked to survivors and people that were there when it happened.
Yep. And we've turned interviews into realistic situations to where I can say, hey, this is what I heard on this interview straight from somebody that was there. Not Wikipedia, not University of Facebook, not YouTube. This was a direct interview where they've said this, and then that's what I bring back. I don't change it around. This is what happened.
So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
I'll give you time to think about it. What was the failure of the security team for Charlie Kirk?
Probably complacency. Didn't check the roofs.
Redundant. It's just redundant.
We do this all the time. He's going to get a lot of verbal stuff, but there's never been any physical, like that. And so there probably won't be. Yeah. But a drone, as simple as just having a drone up that day. Charlie's team, Turning Point USA, could have afforded a really nice drone, but put a drone up and collect what's going on in those rooftops.
And I think that's what's always interesting on all of them.
Yeah.
There is a consistent theme.
Yeah.
When Trump got shot in Pennsylvania, who got blamed for all of it? It's like the local law.
Exactly. Exactly.
They should have done this.
Yeah, politics. Yeah. Start blaming local law enforcement on that. That's not federal. That's not federal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think, for me, I think it's important if people don't hear anything else about what we talk about, which is have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
But don't stop with having a plan. Let your plan get, I don't want to say attacked, but like test it.
Right.
Test it. See if it really does work.
Exactly.
And I think that's what's cool about what you do. It's not just tested with the active shooter training that you have. It's tested over time based on interviews that you've done with other people.
Different locations, different venues, different people, all different parts of the country. Yeah. And we've both been on protection details, and when we're talking about Charlie Kirk's team, I wouldn't fault them because I've done protection details in DC, New York, Baltimore, and I've looked back and thought, we could have done this. We probably should have. Nothing went bad, but I look back and say, we could have done this. You can always look at every incident and say, we could have done that.
And I think that's one of the things that I think people don't realize, like the Tier 1, Delta, all of them, they do after action review.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we fail in law enforcement and day-to-day operations is just winning.
Yep.
Because something happened in your favor.
Right.
Is not winning.
Right.
Like if you don't, at the end of that, you don't sit there and have a moment where you're like, we could have done this better.
Or what if this had happened?
Yes.
We won, but what if this in a fraction of a second had happened?
Because you're absolutely correct. And I think that's a really cool point. Those dudes reacted better than the Secret Service did once he was shot.
Oh, they were on him.
They were on it.
They were trained.
Yes.
I was
impressed. So I think the thing to think about is that sometimes it's good to have second eye.
Yeah.
Second set of eyes to look at it and go,
right,
we could have done this.
Yeah.
So,
and for civilians, I always ask, well, who's done threat assessment? And nobody's hand goes up. In an auditorium of 800 people, 3 hands will go up, and that's military and law enforcement. And then I tell them, everybody does threat assessment. If you have kids and you're cooking on the stove and the kid starts walking towards the stove and you tell them, get back, that's threat assessment.
Right.
And then people like brighten up. Oh,
I have done that.
I have done that. We do it every day. We do it driving, threat assessment. But people hear that word, threat assessment, risk management. Ooh, that's for the military or the police. Our church can't do that. Yeah, you can, which is a little bit of training.
Right. Well, I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you having me on.
It was awesome. I think one of the coolest things is just the way that you look at things. I think would be very helpful to a lot of people. Yeah. You do have a class coming up.
I do. We've got one at Loose Shoe Brewery, which is in Amherst. For that situational awareness, observational awareness class, it's usually $100. Loose Shoe Brewery's done some things to make it $50 per person.
Okay.
It's Monday night, this coming Monday night, is it the 13th?
How much space do you have? How many people can you get in
I think they can get 45 people in there.
Okay.
And we've done this 2 other times at their Appomattox location, and this one it's sold out. Okay. I haven't talked to Darren from Loose Shoe yet to see how many have signed up, but
it's definitely training worth having.
It is, yeah, it is, and it's a good time. This one's ladies only, because at the end we're going to do a town hall type meeting, and I'm going to just say, what are your concerns in the community? What scares you?
Right.
What at home, at your private gym that you go to, or your shopping mall? What are your concerns? So we'll open it up.
So here's the question: since it's a brewery, is it 21 and above or no?
No, it's kid friendly. I think we put it at 15 and up with a parent. I do show some graphic videos, and the reason I don't show graphic videos in my classes or active shooter, but in this particular class, situational awareness, we have to let people know, you and I know people can be horrible, just completely violent, ruthless. Right. So we have to show a couple videos to show how absolutely cold-hearted and ruthless and demonic people can be.
Right.
We got to understand our attacker,
right,
and know what type of violence are they working under. Is it social aggression or asocial aggression? Because the two are hugely different.
So it's the 17th from what time? 6?
It's I can't believe I don't know the date. It is this Monday. I don't even know what today is.
I think it is the 17th.
What do you watch today? We're looking it up, but
we've got people for that.
Yeah. 13th. Thank you. Yeah, our backstage people told us 13th.
All right, so it's the 13th.
It's the 13th. It's 6 p.m.
6
and you register through them. So for my classes, you go to the T4 Tactics website, register on the website. But for this, you register and pay at Loose Shoe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I'm sure you'll have a full house.
I think we will. Yeah, we usually do, and we get some good conversations, and And that's the best class. I love teaching it because I see the faces light up.
Well, I think you can look at it and go, I possibly prevented one of these people or numerous people.
I do get a lot of phone calls from people, especially businesses and churches. We've set up the threat assessment team, and I'll get calls. Listen to what our threat assessment team just caught. I went to San Francisco last year. October was last year. Make a long story short, big construction company. Well, they're working on a school that's in session. And 2 days after the training, because of what they learned, they stopped a guy going in with a backpack, a fake gun, a fake bomb, pepper spray, zip ties, and handcuffs. They from that training, they looked at him, called law enforcement. He ended up fighting law enforcement, run in. They called the helicopter. He was a bad guy. But that construction
company. Abducting somebody, probably.
Yeah. It worked. The training works.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much for coming on.
It's been enjoyable. I like reminiscing about police work and stuff like that. It's always, and it's good to be out. Thank goodness I'm out.
I only got a couple months.
That's right. You do?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So,
good for you.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.